What would you do if the person you trusted most set you up for betrayal? I never saw it coming. Not from her. My daughter, Emily, had always been my heart. My bright, fierce girl who still crawled into my bed after nightmares even at 19. So when she brought Lucas home for the first time, I wanted to love him too. And I did. He was warm, funny, the kind of guy who remembered how you took your coffee and actually listened when you spoke. That's why I didn't hesitate when she begged me to let him stay over that night. Please, Mom. It's pouring out, and his car's acting up. Her big, pleading eyes could still melt me. I agreed, on one condition: he'd sleep on the couch. I should have known something was off by the way they exchanged a glance when I said it. Later, in the bath, I let the hot water ease the ache in my muscles from a double shift at the hospital. The candles flickered, the steam curled, and then the door creaked open. I expected Emily. But it was Lucas. And the words he whispered next weren't just a violation, they were a confession. One that implicated her. My own daughter had orchestrated this. And the worst part. She'd wanted me to say yes. I used to believe I knew my daughter better than anyone in the world. Emily had been my miracle, the kind of child who made single motherhood feel less like a struggle and more like a privilege. Even after her father walked out on us when she was 14, leaving nothing but a half-empty closet and a pile of unpaid bills, we made it work. I picked up extra shifts at the hospital, she took on a part-time job after school, and somehow, between the exhaustion and the quiet dinners at our worn kitchen table, we built a life that felt whole. She was my best friend. My confidant. The one who knew when I needed tea after a long shift without me having to ask. And then she brought Lucas home. I remember the first time I met him, how his laughter filled our small living room, how his eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled. He was 24, 5 years older than Emily, but he carried himself with a quiet maturity that put me at ease. He worked as a physical therapist, loved his mother fiercely, and had a way of making even the most mundane conversations feel meaningful. "Mom, you're staring," Emily had teased, nudging my shoulder as we cleared the dinner dishes that first night. "I'm just happy for you," I said, and I meant it. But there were little things, too. The way his hand lingered on the small of her back a second too long when he thought I wasn't looking. The way his gaze flicked to me sometimes when Emily left the room, as if he were waiting for my reaction. I told myself I was imagining it. That I was just being overly protective. Then came the night everything changed. It had been raining for hours. One of those relentless summer storms that turned the roads into rivers. Emily and Lucas had gone out to dinner, and when they returned, both of them were soaked, laughing as they shook water from their hair like a pair of stray puppies. "Mom, can Lucas stay over?" Emily asked, her voice dripping with faux innocence. "His car won't start, and Uber prices are insane right now." I hesitated. We had rules. But the storm rattled the windows, and Lucas stood there, looking sheepish and apologetic. "Fine," I said. "But his on the couch." Emily beamed and threw her arms around me. "You're the best." I didn't miss the glance they exchanged as she pulled away. Later, after they'd settled in the living room with a movie, I retreated to the bathroom, craving the solace of hot water and silence. The bathroom was my sanctuary, the one place where the weight of the world couldn't reach me. I lit candles, poured lavender oil into the steaming tub, and sank in with a sigh, letting the heat unravel the knots in my shoulders. The water was just beginning to cool when the door creaked open. I assumed it was Emily, maybe needing a tampon or wanting to gossip about Lucas. But it wasn't Emily. Lucas stood in the doorway, backlit by the dim hall light, his expression unreadable. My breath caught. "You need to leave. Now." He didn't move. Instead, he stepped inside, closing the door softly behind him. And then he said the words that shattered everything. "Emily thought you'd like this." The air left my lungs. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't an impulse. This was planned. And my daughter, my bright, fierce girl, had been part of it. For a heartbeat, I couldn't move. The water around me had gone cold, but the chill creeping up my spine had nothing to do with temperature. Lucas stood there, watching me with an unsettling calm, as if this were normal. As if I were the one being unreasonable. I gripped the edges of the tub, my voice low and shaking. "Get out." He tilted his head, studying me like a puzzle he was trying to solve. You don't have to pretend with me. Pretend? The word came out strangled. Emily told me how lonely you've been. His tone was soft, almost pitying. She thought you'd appreciate the attention. My stomach twisted. This couldn't be real. Emily wouldn't. She couldn't. I yanked my robe from the hook and stood, water sloshing onto the tiles. Leave. Now. Or I swear to God, I'll scream loud enough the neighbors call the police. Something flickered in his eyes, annoyance, amusement, but he stepped back, raising his hands in mock surrender. Fine. But you're overreacting. The moment the door clicked shut, my legs gave out. I sank onto the toilet lid, clutching the robe to my chest, my breath coming in ragged gasps. This wasn't happening. It couldn't be. But the proof was in the silence of the house. No startled questions from Emily. No confusion about why Lucas had been in the bathroom. Just quiet. I dressed with numb fingers and stormed down the hall. Emily's door was ajar, the blue glow of her phone screen casting shadows across her face. She looked up as I shoved it open, her expression unreadable. Did you put him up to that? My voice was barely a whisper, but it felt like a scream in the stillness. She didn't even flinch. Put him up to what? Don't. I took a step forward, my hands trembling. Don't play dumb. He said you knew. Emily sighed, setting her phone aside. Mom, you need to relax. Lucas was just trying to be nice. Nice. A hysterical laugh bubbled up in my throat. Since when is walking in on someone in the bath nice? She rolled her eyes, the gesture so casual it made my blood boil. God, you're so dramatic. He probably just needed the sink or something. I stared at her, searching for any hint of guilt, any flicker of the girl who used to cry when she accidentally stepped on a snail. But her face was a mask of indifference. He told me, I said slowly, that you thought I'd like it. For the first time, her confidence wavered. She picked at her nail polish, avoiding my gaze. Okay, so maybe I mentioned you've been lonely. And maybe I said he should be friendlier. That's all. That's all. My voice cracked. Emily, he cornered me naked. She finally looked up, her eyes flashing. Oh, please. Like you've never flirted with him. I've seen the way you look at him. The accusation hit like a slap. I had never. But then I remembered the way I'd laughed a little too hard at his jokes. The way I'd noticed his hands when he helped me carry groceries. Small, harmless things, or so I'd thought. Had she seen something I hadn't? The doubt must have shown on my face, because Emily smirked. See, you're not as innocent as you pretend. I opened my mouth, but before I could speak, Lucas appeared in the doorway, now fully dressed, his duffel bag slung over his shoulder. I should go, he said, his voice carefully neutral. Emily jumped up. What? No. Mom's just being weird. I said I'm leaving. His tone left no room for argument. She huffed, crossing her arms. Fine. But this is so unfair. Lucas didn't look at me as he walked out. Emily followed, shooting me a glare that felt like a knife to the ribs. The front door slammed. Silence. Then, muffled voices outside. Arguing. I crept to the window, peeling back the curtain just enough to see them standing by Lucas's car, the rain still falling in sheets. Emily was gesturing wildly, her face contorted in anger. Lucas shook his head, saying something that made her shove him. And then, clear as day through the glass. This was your idea. Lucas snapped. You said she'd be into it. Emily's reply was too low to hear, but the way Lucas recoiled told me everything. He got in his car and drove off, leaving her standing in the driveway, soaked and seething. When she came back inside, she didn't look at me, just stomped to her room and locked the door. I stood there, dripping rainwater from the window, the truth settling over me like a weight. My daughter had tried to give me her boyfriend. And the worst part, I still had no idea why. The house felt like a tomb in the days that followed. Emily moved through it like a ghost, speaking only in monosyllables, her eyes avoiding mine. Every unanswered question hung between us, thick as the summer humidity. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't stop replaying that night in my head, the look on Lucas's face, the casual cruelty in Emily's voice. On the fourth morning, I found her sitting at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a cold cup of coffee. She looked up when I entered, and for the first time in days, she held my gaze. "We need to talk," she said. My pulse jumped, but I kept my voice steady. "I've been waiting." She took a deep breath, her fingers tapping against the mug. "I owe you an explanation." The air between us crackled with tension. I pulled out a chair and sat, bracing myself. Emily stared at her reflection in the black coffee. "It wasn't about you," she began. "Not really." I waited, my hands clenched in my lap. "It was about Dad." The words landed like a punch. "What?" She finally looked up, her eyes glassy. "When he left, he told me it was because you were cold. That you didn't want him anymore. That you pushed him away." Her voice cracked. "And then Lucas started paying attention to you, and I saw how you smiled at him, and I thought." "You thought what asterisk?" My voice was barely a whisper. "That if you could just see what it felt like to be wanted again, you'd understand why Dad left. Maybe even forgive him." A tear slipped down her cheek. "Maybe then we could all be a family again." The room tilted. All this time, I'd thought it was some twisted game. But it was worse, it was grief. It was a child's desperate attempt to stitch her broken world back together. "Emily." My throat ached. "Your father left because he was having an affair. Not because of me." She flinched. "That's not what he said." "I know." I reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "But it's the truth. He told me he was unhappy for years. That he felt trapped. The other woman was just convenient." The silence that followed was deafening. Outside, a lawnmower droned in the distance. Emily wiped her face with the back of her hand. "Then why didn't you tell me?" "Because you adored him. And I didn't want to take that away from you." She let out a shaky breath. "So all this time, I was blaming the wrong person." The weight of it settled between us, all the misplaced anger, the years of quiet resentment, the horrifying lengths she'd gone to try and fix something that was never hers to mend. Lucas had been a pawn. I'd been a target. And my sweet, broken girl had been the architect of her own devastation. I reached for her again, and this time, she let me take her hand. "We can't undo what happened," I said softly. "But we can start telling each other the truth." For the first time in years, my daughter leaned into me, her sobs shaking us both as the morning light spilled across the kitchen floor. The weeks that followed were fragile, like walking on glass that hadn't yet shattered but could at any moment. Emily and I moved carefully around each other, our conversations tentative, our silences heavy with everything we still hadn't said. Lucas never came back. Emily told me she'd ended things with him the morning after that night, though she wouldn't share the details. I didn't press. Some wounds needed air to heal, and some were better left bandaged. We started seeing a therapist, first separately, then together. It was painful, sitting in that small office, picking apart years of misunderstandings and half-truths. But with each session, the weight on my chest grew a little lighter. Emily began to talk about her father less with anger and more with a quiet sadness, the kind that comes with acceptance. One evening, as we washed dishes side by side, she broke the silence with a question that had clearly been weighing on her. "Do you think we'll ever be okay again?" I handed her a dripping plate, our fingers brushing briefly. "We're already okay," I said. "Not the same as before, but okay." She nodded, her eyes glistening in the soft kitchen light. That was enough. As summer faded into fall, small moments began to feel normal again. Emily laughing at a TV show. The smell of her vanilla shampoo lingering in the bathroom. The way she still forgot to close the pantry door, just like when she was little. But some things had changed for good. I no longer flinched when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. No longer braced for another of my ex-husband's manipulative calls. Emily stopped jumping to his defense when his name came up in conversation. We'd both cut our ties to him, not with anger, but with the quiet finality of a door clicking shut. The night before Emily went back to college, we sat on the porch with mugs of tea, wrapped in blankets against the chill. The stars were bright overhead, the same ones we'd wished on when she was small. "I'm sorry," she said suddenly, her voice barely above a whisper. I knew what she meant. Not just for Lucas, but for all of it, the years of misplaced blame, the cruel words, the way she tried to fix something that was never broken to begin with. "Me too," I said, and it was true. I was sorry I hadn't seen her pain sooner. Sorry I'd let my pride keep me from telling her the truth about her father. Sorry for all the ways we'd failed each other without meaning to. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and we sat like that for a long time, watching the moon climb higher in the sky. When I think back on that terrible night now, I don't see the betrayal first. I see the aftermath, the way we slowly, painfully put each other back together. Love isn't just the easy moments. It's showing up for the hard ones too. It's sitting in the wreckage of your mistakes and choosing to rebuild. Emily texts me most days now, usually silly things, a funny meme, a complaint about her roommate, a photo of the cat she's desperate to adopt. Sometimes, though, she'll send a simple message that still makes my breath catch. "Love you, Mom." And I know what she really means. Thank you for staying. Thank you for forgiving me. Thank you for loving me enough to weather the storm. We never talk about Lucas anymore. Some stories don't need endings. They just need to be folded away, like a letter you tuck into a drawer and only read when you're strong enough to remember how far you've come. The truth is, healing isn't a straight line. It's messy and uneven, full of steps forward and steps back. But as long as you keep walking it together, that's enough. That's always been enough.